All right, let's jump right into today's explainer. We are unpacking a really brilliant, super concise text today that hits on a struggle I think we literally all share. It's the balance between effort and surrender. Basically, we're going to figure out how to navigate that tricky space between the stuff we can actually influence and the stuff we just have to let go of. So let's start off with a pretty heavy question. Are you carrying the weight of the whole universe? Seriously, I want you to genuinely reflect on that for a second. Because, let's be honest, so many of us are walking around completely burned out. We're exhausted, we're overwhelmed by everything happening around us, we try to micromanage every single little detail of our days, our futures, even the people in our lives. Well, the source text we're analyzing today argues that all this exhaustion comes from a massive misunderstanding of what is actually ours to carry in the first place. Now, what's really interesting here is how the text literally draws a hard line right down the middle of our lives. This is the absolute foundation of the whole philosophy. On one side, you have what you control, and on the other, you have what is completely beyond you. The author makes this really compelling case that all of our anxiety, all that daily frustration, springs up because we blur this line. We either drop the ball on our side or we're constantly reaching across the boundary, trying to manipulate the other side. To fix this, we've got to strictly define where these two realms begin and end. Okay, let's look at your side of the line first. The text calls this realm the sovereignty of effort. I mean, what a fantastic phrase, right? Sovereignty. It implies absolute, unquestionable rule. Think of it like being the monarch of your own little kingdom. In this specific domain, your authority is absolute. We aren't talking about wishing or hoping here. This is about recognizing the exact areas where your power is undeniable. So what exactly falls under your sovereign rule? Well, first up, you are in charge of yourself. The text breaks this down into 5 core pillars: your thoughts, your choices, your reactions, your habits, and your growth. Notice how entirely internal this whole list is. You govern your internal world, period. You decide which thoughts to entertain. You make your own choices. Like when someone cuts you off in traffic and you literally want to lose your mind. That reaction, that's yours to own. And over time, those split-second reactions build your habits, and those habits dictate your personal growth. So personal sovereignty? It all starts right here, in the quiet architecture of your own mind. But wait, it doesn't just stay inside your head. This internal control naturally builds into outward action. Because you aren't just governing your internal self, the text makes it super clear that you are in charge of your life. It defines this life control with 3 powerful things: the direction you take, the standards you set, and the effort you give. Look, you absolutely do not control the job market, right? But you completely control the direction of your career pivot and the sheer amount of effort you put into applying. You decide the standard of excellence you're going to uphold. The effort you pour into literally any endeavor is 100% your domain. So here's the crucial point. Mastering yourself, both those internal thoughts and your outward effort, leads directly to what the text calls personal accountability. And it defines this simply. It's living without making excuses for your own choices, standards, and effort. Once you truly grasp this sovereignty of effort, the urge to point fingers or make excuses just vanishes. You own your part, completely. But actually, hold on, let's just take a breath here, because that is only half of the equation. We're now stepping out of the realm of effort and moving into the second half of the text, the realm of the peace of surrender. If the first half was all about taking fierce, absolute ownership, this half is about absolute release. It's about deeply, truly understanding what is fundamentally and permanently beyond our power. According to the text, God, or, if you prefer, the universe or the natural order of things, is in charge of literally everything else. Outcomes, timing, other people, and just this vast category of things totally beyond your control. Just think for a second about how much energy we waste right here. We try so hard to force outcomes. We obsess over trying to fix our partners or change our coworkers. We get incredibly anxious and honestly rage against a delayed flight as if getting mad is somehow going to make the plane fix itself faster. The text is telling us very calmly that attempting to micromanage these external things is exactly what creates our modern anxiety. They just aren't ours to command. And this brings us to a really fascinating definition of inner peace. The text defines it as existing without carrying the weight of the whole universe. It's the perfect answer to that heavy question we asked at the very beginning of this explainer. True inner peace isn't about, sticking your head in the sand and ignoring reality. Not at all. It is achieved simply by recognizing what wasn't yours to carry in the first place, and then just dropping those burdens. It's that profound relief of letting the universe manage its own affairs.
When we actually place these two concepts side by side, the contrast is super striking. Look at this. In one column, you are in charge of your habits and your effort. In the other, God is in charge of outcomes and timing. So on the left, we have the sovereignty of the self. And on the right, we have surrender to what is way, way greater than the self. Now, you might be looking at those two columns and thinking, hold up, aren't these completely opposite ideas? Like they're at war with each other. But the source material makes a really fascinating claim here. Personal accountability and inner peace are not opposites. They actually form a unified mindset. The text says that holding both of these truths at the exact same time is what creates this profound mental clarity. You are fiercely, stubbornly accountable for your inputs, while simultaneously being completely at peace with the ultimate outputs. To make this super concrete, the author gives us a daily way to actually live this out. I want you to let this mantra really sink in. I will do my part fully and release what I cannot control. Just sit with that for a second. It perfectly synthesizes this entire dichotomy we've been talking about into one incredibly powerful, highly actionable sentence. Honestly, it's like a daily operating system for your mind. So let's break that mantra down so you can see exactly how to apply this dual mindset as a totally simple practice in your day-to-day life. Step 1. Do your part fully. Bring your absolute A game, maintain your highest standards, and choose your reactions really wisely. Literally leave nothing on the table, and then immediately shift to step 2. Release what you cannot control. The second your effort is spent, you let go of the outcome, the timeline, and definitely the opinions of other people. You literally just step back and surrender it. And when you actually live this out, the text promises a very specific resulting balance. First, clarity. You always know exactly what to focus on, which is your own effort. Second, resilience. Because your self-worth is now tied to your standards, not external outcomes, you can bounce back from a terrible job interview or a project that completely tanked. And finally, less anxiety. Why? Because you've actively stopped trying to steer the entire universe. I mean, that is an immense emotional reward for such a simple mental shift. So, this leaves us with an absolutely crucial choice that only you can make. Will you choose to keep holding on to the weight of the universe, struggling with outcomes and timelines that are literally out of your hands? Or will you choose the sovereignty of your own effort and the peace of surrender? The framework is right here in front of you. How you use it is entirely up to you. Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer. Keep focusing on what actually matters, and I'll catch you next time.